Hello everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Commander Showcase. Today we are starting a Halloween-themed month of commanders, with our first commander being the Abomination of Llanowar. It is a green, black, and a colorless for an XX elf horror with vigilance and menace, and Abomination of Llanowar's power and toughness are equal to the number of elves that I control, plus the number of elves in my graveyard. This means that we're able to pump the board with a ton of elves, whether it be non-token or token elves. And even if we lose a lot of those non-token elves, we're still able to power up our commander. Going into it, we are going to quickly... I think it's this one is what I want to do. Yes, it is. So we can start talking about our swole elves. These are things that are going to be buffing our elves, such as Pride of the Perfect, which gives a +2/+0. Dwynnin Giltleaf Dane, question mark, gives elves +1/+1. Imperious Perfect gives them +1/+1. Metallic Mimic has them enter with an additional +1/+1 counter on them. Elvish Clan Caller gives our elves +1/+1. Sylvan Anthem gives our green creatures +1/+1. Adaptive Automaton gives our creatures of the chosen type, aka elves, +1/+1. Leapcrown Visionary is another +1/+1. Elvish Champion is the big one here, as not only does it give our creatures +1/+1, but it also gives them Forest Walk, which is an ability that makes our creatures unblockable as long as the defending player controls a forest. You can get around this by running something like Yavimaya Cradle of Growth, which makes all lands forests in addition to their other types, making Forest Walk very, very useful. This deck doesn't have it, as I wanted to keep it as budget as possible, and $66 felt like a good number to kind of end it on, because elves can get really expensive really easily. But some other important ones here is the fact that Imperious Perfect can make us elf tokens. Immaculate Magistrate puts +1/+1 counters on one creature for each elf that we control. Timberwatch Elf gives us +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the number of elves in play, essentially doubling the power and toughness of Abomination of Llanowar. Elderfang Venom also gives our creatures Death Touch, such as Abomination of Llanowar, who already has Vigilance and Menace, so he's already really hard to block. But then also giving him Death Touch gives him an extra layer of power that's going to force our opponents to sacrifice a lot more of their board to stop us from getting through. We mentioned elf tokens here, but we have a lot more elves. Dwynnin's Elite allows us to create a 1/1 elf if we already control another elf when it enters the battlefield. Lathril creates elf warrior creature tokens whenever she deals combat damage. Liz Alana Huntmaster, it does the same thing as Dwynnin's Elite, creates a elf if we already control an elf. But this is anytime we do cast an elf spell, so I guess it's kind of not like it. But you get what I mean. Galadrim, Ambush, and Windswift Slice are going to create X amount of elf creature tokens. The Ambush is going to do it based on the number of attacking creatures. And Windswift Slice is going to create tokens equal to the excess damage dealt by the creature that we choose for the spell, as it deals damage equal to its power to target creature I don't control. An Ambush creates an elf. It doubles our board with creating 1/1 elves for each elf that we already control. Prowess of the Fair will essentially give us a token elf anytime one of our non-token elves die. Elvish Warmaster would give us an extra elf on the first elf to enter the battlefield. And Elvish Promenade creates a 1/1 elf for each elf we control. But this deck is about the main man, Abomination of Llanowar. These are all general spells that are going to give Abomination of Llanowar indestructible, hexproof, something like that. We have Armor Shadows, Professor's Warning, Snakeskin Veil, Biosynthetic Burst, Overprotect, Revitalizing Repast, Gaia's Gift, and Withstand Death. All these either give it indestructible, hexproof, or both, which is going to allow us to save ourselves from removal spells. And the important piece here is that we want to make sure he has trample, so that way if we have something, like if we have Elderfang Venom on the battlefield, it's going to force us to have even more damage put out on the battlefield while our opponents sacrifice even more of their board to keep themselves alive. All of these give him trample or some way to avoid being blocked, aka Cover of Darkness, which will also help us send our other elves into the opponents, as creatures of the chosen type have fear, which means that they can't be blocked by artifact creatures and or black creatures. Other than that, we have the same Biosynthetic Burst, Gaia's Gift, and Overprotect. But we also have Rancor, Garruk's Uprising, Haunted Cloak, and Vorik Battle Horns, which all give either the equipped creature in the way of Haunted Cloak and Vorik Battle Horns. The aura gives them trample as in the way of Rancor, and Garruk's Uprising gives all of our creatures trample. And then we have some card draw here. These are just kind of simple, small draw spells. Return of the Wild Speaker, Rishkar's Expertise, and Soul's Majesty. Soul's Majesty is going to be a big one here, as it's going to draw us cards equal to the power of a creature we control. We could potentially draw our entire library in one spell based on, depending on how strong our commander is. I mean, you've seen where we're able to double his power and toughness multiple times in a turn. So this would essentially give him the ability to deck ourselves, or potentially give us a win condition. Phyrexian Arena is going to get us a extra card every turn, so at least we have a little bit of consistent card draw. Same thing with Beast Whisperer, but it's whenever we cast a creature spell. And here we have about the last part of the deck here, just kind of other general elf stuff. Copperhorn Scout is going to untap all of our elves whenever it attacks, allowing us to double up on our mana creation, as well as give us some extra power behind our creatures. Jagged Scar Archers also has the same power and toughness like formula as Abomination of Llanowar, but you could also tap it to deal damage equal to its power to our creature with flying, allow us to get rid of some flying threats on the board. Grove of Elves is going to essentially have the same power as Abomination of Llanowar, and it can also be a separate voltron target. Same thing with Heedless One, but instead of having hexproof like Grove of Elves, this one already has trample on it. And lastly, we have Bloodline Pretender. This is just a really good one for any kind of like Kindred deck, as once you get him on the board, anytime you get another creature of that type to come out, he gets bigger, and it's just a really worthwhile investment. But to kind of end it, we have all of our a couple land tutors here. The basic ones: Cultivate, Rampant Growth, and Kodama's Reach. But we also have Harvest Season, which searches for X basic land cards, where X number of tapped creatures we control, puts them onto the battlefield tapped. Farhaven Elf searches us for a tapped basic, and then Myriad Landscape gets us 2 basics tapped. And that is the deck. There are a couple other things in here, such as Rogue's Passage, which will make Abomination of Llanowar just completely unblockable. Arbor Elf will be able to allow us to get a forest tapped multiple times per turn. Priest of Titania gets us a bunch of mana based on the amount of elves that we control. Elvish Guidance is an aura that does the same ability as Priest of Titania. And then Morrowind the Nurturer gets stronger as well, similar to Bloodline Pretender, but exclusive to elves and elves alone. But she also taps for green equal to her power. And that is the deck. Bit of a quick one today, but that is the start of October. I already have the full October planned out, as the final episode of October will be on Halloween. So I decided to go all in on this. We're going to go with some spooky, like zombie kind of creatures and stuff, but nothing that's actual zombie tribal. That is the one thing I'm going away from, as well as I think vampire tribal. I think those are two that I'm not doing. There is one deck that I'm not too sure what I want to do yet, but we're going to get to it when we can get to it. And we're going to end it off with a Universes Beyond Halloween themed card. So look forward to that. Thank you all so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you guys on the next one, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.